Hey guys, today about the upcoming increase in damage by hundreds of times, balance, bonuses to active skills, and other stats in Season 13 on new 900 power items. And other interesting things in Diablo 4 will be covered by Nuoff. That is me, let's go. Due to the fact that there will be no more passive skills in the skill tree, then logically, with the item rework, the most popular armor piece, the Shroud of False Death, will suffer. If you have played for any significant amount of time, you have noticed that this chest armor is used in almost all top-tier builds across all classes because of its significant damage buff. On average, across classes, this buff plus 1 passive was approximately 80 to 100%. And besides that, this armor enhances not only damage but also nodes for defense, resources, cooldown reduction, and other. So what will replace this armor and how, I do not know. Or maybe there won't be such a multi-class universal item in the game at all. And that's not even bad, because it will lead to variety in item usage for each specific build. And I like that. The second, clearly noticeable nuance concerns amulets. This is also like a calling card for many builds having buffs to several passive skills. Plus 3 or 5 buffs to several passives gave us about 50% multiplicative damage. For some classes and builds, even more. But getting such an amulet was very difficult. Most often you could only buy it, or spend 100 hours farming the Kurast Undercity with that specific sigil, adding 50 million to each run. But even that did not guarantee a top-tier amulet. Personally, I got a top-tier one in Season 7, and it took a very long time. So, in my opinion, if such amulets are no longer part of the best builds, I will not be opposed. If they bring back percentage main stat increases on amulets, as it was before, that would already be a step towards strengthening the amulet without passive bonuses. Perhaps other percentage-based values will be added to amulets, like life. Maybe the bonus to aspect power on amulets will be increased from 100% to 150%. Or maybe new stats will be introduced for amulets. There are options, so we'll see what comes of it. I also have this thought, since changing the damage calculation formulas is expensive, perhaps the current passive nodes from the skill tree will be moved to the Paragon board with minimal changes. For example, by adding the node bonuses to the yellow Paragon nodes. Or option 2, add another type of Paragon node. Currently, there are magic, yellow, and legendary nodes. What if we add a third type of node to Paragon, say exalted nodes, and transfer the bonuses from the passive skill tree nodes onto them with purely visual changes, but under a different name? Thus, our amulet would still have the same nodes, but under different names, while the nodes themselves would move from the skill tree to Paragon. Personally, I would do it that way. I am not joking. From a development cost perspective, this is the most logical step. Visually change the design, the names, the positions, but in reality, the calculation formula remains the old one. Minimum work, maximum marketing, everyone is happy. In the sense that the developers saved on development, gave a little money to marketing, and those people will explain to us how everything was globally reworked and other such nonsense. This is a viable option. I mean, it's not a theory, this is how it's been done everywhere for a long time. There have always been many programmers among players, and after the rework, I think many will see what and where was moved, with new names not changing the essence. Or perhaps I am wrong, and everything will be reworked globally. But these are all guesses. Let's look at what already exists. A few warlock items have been shown. A ring, what do we see? That it has a percentage to main stat. Previously, percentage to main stat was only on amulets until Season 11, if I'm not mistaken. Let's look at the stats. For comparison, I'm showing a new item power 900 ring and an old item power 800 ring. As we can see, cooldown reduction is increased and critical strike chance is increased, but this is logical. The level increases, the parameters increase, but the critical strike chance cap of 100% is a constant. What will happen? Will they remove the ability to roll critical strike chance on some item, or will they just make reaching 100% easier? Unknown for now. Now let's compare pants. Maximum life increased from 790 to 1000. The maximum value of main stat remained the same, 121. The skill bonus remained the same, plus 3. Although previously we could rank up a skill to plus 5, now we can go up to plus 12. That is, previously the max skill rank could be 8, now it will be 15. Thus, the relative increase in skill power from each item has decreased. Well, now for the most interesting part, a one-handed mace. The difference in damage here is gigantic. At the same attack speed, we have 297 versus the new 815 damage per second. That is 2.83 times more. Since this is the weapons-based damage, onto which many additive and multiplicative multipliers are applied, the final difference in damage will not be 3 times, but tens or hundreds of times. This means that, in theory, we will be running the pit approximately 10 levels higher. This is rough, just as an example, but I don't think it will turn out exactly like that. You know that I don't get overly excited, I don't shout about tons and trillions, but calmly analyze what is happening. Let's follow tradition. Logic and experience say the following. If damage grows for show and creates an illusion of character power growth, which it does, what turns this growth into an illusion? Correct. Changes to monster health, armor, and resistances. That is, alongside the conditional growth of damage numbers, we get monster health growth. If that doesn't happen, then what will happen? What will happen is the same clown show that occurred in Diablo 3. In my previous video, I mentioned the tactic of bipolar disorder and the lack of a clear plan. And I also talked about the cube. Check it out if you haven't seen it. And don't forget to subscribe while you're in. And in Diablo 3, it was like this. The developers each season increased the power of sets and slash or aspects not by a little, but by 10 or 20 times. The steps of damage increase were gigantic. Numbers lost all meaning because they were these monstrous things incomprehensible to the mind. They behaved as if difficulty 150 was not the final one. And when players hit the 150 cap, after some time they announced there will be no increase in the level of greater rifts, which is currently the tower. So go have fun running the maximum level 150 pit in 1 to 2 minutes. I hope lessons have been learned. Surely that team which increased damage by tens of times each season did not know about the permanent cap of 150. I repeat, I hope that conclusions have been drawn and the sick have been sent for treatment. In favor of this is the fact that 150 is not the cap now. In the early seasons, people ran 160 plus. And then they started scaling damage with monster health, which indicates a healthy approach and a trend towards recovery. They're also adding a loot filter. Everything indicates that Blizzard is doing well. Yes, what was I talking about? About the one-handed mace with enormous damage. As an option, this mace is only for the Warlock, and then this solves the general balance issue. The Warlock will be the strongest not because of aspects and extra damage multipliers, but because of the weapon. That is, you can balance the class starting from the very beginning, and when the active campaign for Sales of the Lord of Hatred DLC ends, reduce the weapon's base damage. But that's unlikely, and I mentioned it just as an option. In reality, weapon damage will most likely be increased for all classes, although personally, I don't understand why. The plus 121 to main stat remained the same. Skill bonus also, same as pants. All of this looks like this. You have incredibly powerful, gain tons of damage, now thousands of trillions and massive tons of crazy great balances, and the unimaginability of unshakable power in its grandiose greatness of everything in the world await you. But no, this is just a rebalance with the creation of an illusion of growth. Right now, I'm not talking specifically about Diablo 4, I'm talking about all games. Everywhere in the game engine there are limitations on one thing or another, and the developer's job consists precisely of skillfully manipulating the illusion of growth. But what will really happen? New build development options, there will clearly be more builds. But I, as is my nature, will tell it like it is. For any class, at any time in Diablo 4, as in Diablo 3, there have always been and will always be only 3 builds. One for the most efficient farming. The second the strongest for pushing and for Ubers if necessary. And the third is either a damage dealer build for a party or a support build for that same party. The other 10 or even 20 builds exist only for entertainment, and some of them cannot even efficiently farm maximum difficulty. Season after season, on paper, these builds should change due to developers buffing or nerfing certain aspects or skills. But in practice, unfortunately, all they do is not bring other builds up to the top tier, but simply destroy the most convenient and effective setups. For example, for the rogue on Death Trap, they forced a weapon swap, which makes the build very laggy and unplayable. Sometimes they even destroy a key feature of an entire class. For example, the sorceress's teleport by manually introducing a set minimum cooldown. Anyone who has played a couple of 3 seasons on a class will tell you a bunch of such stories about builds for their class. Share in the comments, don't be shy. Thanks. And the fact that Blizzard still hasn't showed the skill trees for other classes, that is questionable marketing. Everyone buys Warlock or just waits without information. And the nastiest thing about this story is that these popular bloggers don't notice it. About the upcoming balance, I'll state the obvious. The strongest, fastest, and most convenient will be the Warlock. Next to him will be the Paladin, not completely lowered to the general level. The other classes will be more or less equal. Well, excluding bugs, of course. In the matter of balancing class power, Blizzard has succeeded. I'm not joking, and this is not sarcasm. If we remove the artificially strengthened Paladin, strengthened to increase sales, then all the other classes are very close to each other. Something like this has never happened in the history of Diablo 4. Another frequent question is when new heroes are brought to the general level. With the Spiritborn, it was like this. In his first season, he was 73 pit levels stronger than the then weakest druid. The season following that one, he was already in the general trend and no longer stood out. With the Paladin's dominance, that's it. Now there will be one season of Warlock dominance, maybe 2 seasons. Then everything will be more or less close. Fortunately, it has been proven that they can do it. But there is another option. Don't believe everything, or rather, don't believe anything. Because quite often something breaks or doesn't go according to plan, and the architects of this act pretend that it was intended that way. Everywhere there is nothing but lies. Sorry, now it's called marketing. But hopefully, understanding the mechanisms of something will not spoil the impression of the process of participating in it. On this positive note, allow me to end this narration. If you liked it, hit the like button. If you didn't like it, hit the dislike button, but do something. Thank you for watching and for the like and subscribe. For now. And no, I'm not a pessimist. I'm a marketer realist. Bye.